The shamar prophet, and these various words are all synonyms that actually build out what it means to shamar. And so within the construct of a local church, you will find primarily shamar prophets doing one of these four things. They will be those that watch over. This is where the word guard comes in. As you study this Hebrew word, shamar, found in Key 8104, it also translates guard in the context of watching over. This is where divine oversight is given to prophets within a local church to make sure that things are functioning based upon God's design, God's order, God's mandate. So Moses, as a shamar prophet, was sent by God to liberate Israel from their captors in Egypt, but also not just liberate them, but while they were transitioning, he was to be a type of preserver for them as well. And local churches oftentimes maybe based upon their plot of geography, maybe based upon the socioeconomic status of the realm that they're in, maybe the demographic of people that they're called by God to serve. There's so many variables. There must be a liberating and delivering dimension to that local church. And this is where prophets in particular, when you study the scriptures, Ephesians chapter 2 verse 20, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. So a big part of liberating and delivering people is aligning them with Jesus Christ. A big part of preserving them, guarding them, being a briar to them, putting a lid, not in the context of limiting them, but covering and protecting them and being a watchman, has everything to do with being able to bring them into alignment with Jesus Christ. Here, I believe, is one of the erroneous, how can I say this? One of the errors or erroneous errors that you find in the body of Christ. People get a taste of heavenly things, learn how a gift operates. Jesus gives it to them, and then they take that gift and they configure it to fit their own narrative, and as a result, it does not serve an eternal purpose, but it simply is now relegated to serving the purpose of a man. And though man may reap benefits because the gift works, the irony is that the kingdom itself is not advancing in people, and someone will have to give account for not shamaring what God has invested in that local gathering of believers. This is why it's so dangerous to receive a title, get an impartation, be set in an office, and then allow carnality, life, to allow things germane to your humanity to run interference with something that is supernatural. People fail to realize that when you get born again, salvation is not a panacea. It does not fix all the problems of your life. It just disqualifies you from being an eternal candidate in hell. But in this realm, you still have to work out your own salvation. And so God raises up prophets and prophetic people to help his church stay in alignment. And this is why the powers of darkness fight so vehemently against this ministry in particular, along with the apostle, to get them jacked up, because they're foundational and fundamental to the body staying in alignment with Jesus Christ, the head. If he can get us motivated to preach for any other thing than exalting Christ and glorifying God, he's got a stronghold. If he can get us to operate in our gift, to bring attention to us, to build our own platforms and to become famous, he's established a stronghold. If he can get us to withhold from operating in our gift when we feel like we have some sense of entitlement and things belong unto us, he's established a stronghold. And this is these are some of the trending problems that we have in the body of Christ today, is that Jesus is no longer the desire of our affection. Jesus is not even factored into the equation, but yet he's been made to be the head of all things, even the church. It's now about how famous you can be, what kind of platform you can build, how much influence you got, how many people follow you, how many folk, how much money you got. And the reality is that we have people serving a Jesus that doesn't even require salvation today. Christless salvation. You just join the church and you're all right. You just join the church, you learn, the culture of the church, you learn the desires of the leader of your church, you learn how to, genuflex and yield and just be a good servant. And these things now qualify you for a heaven that man has made. But they don't qualify you to live your life in compliance with Christ. But this is why God raises up Shema prophets in every generation. They could care less about fame and fortune. They could care less about the influence of man. They know they've heard from God. They position themselves to help liberate God's inheritance and also preserve God's inheritance from spiritual contamination, from greedy dogs, from wolves in sheep clothing, from imposters, from false teachers, from agents of chaos and error, from proponents of idolatry and witchcraft and control, from sexual predators that want to attack local churches. These Shema prophets, they're somewhere praying in tongues, they're leading worship, they're on instruments, they're serving in nurseries, they're serving in children's ministry. They ain't looking for a place to preach, they ain't looking for a platform. They know who they serve and who has sent them, and they're committed to making sure they fulfill their mandate to liberate and preserve. These are the kinds of prophets I'm convinced that heaven is really putting a spotlight